Hello, everyone. Welcome to BunkaMania Goes to the Movies. I am the Dekker Dane, and I'm joined, as always, by Harriett and MattyBoo. How are you doing, guys?
Oh, we're doing absolutely great. I spent £32 on a movie, and I don't regret it at all. The popcorn was ginormous, and the drink was even bigger. I so desperately needed a wee after watching the film. Also, because I was also very, very happy because I saw a movie that made me very, very happy. Draw your own conclusions. Hi, Harry.
Hello, Matty. I think you got the same popcorn bucket I got because now my mum's kidnapped it. I'm never getting it back. But yeah, no, I'm good as well. Very good. Yeah.
Awesome. I see you both are kind of dressed for the occasion as well with your lovely Transformers merchandise of T-shirts of Starscream and Shockwave there, because we are, of course, here to review Transformers 1, the latest animated film, which dives into the early past of Optimus Prime and Megatron. Transformers 1 is the untold origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron, better known as sworn enemies, but once were friends bonded like brothers who changed the fate of Cybertron forever. Before he became Optimus Prime, the Autobot leader was known as Orion Pax, while Megatron was simply D16. Both of them low-ranking Minobots and the bestest of best friends. After the two discover a map to find the lost matrix of leadership, they set forth on an adventure to help save an Energon-starved Cybertron. However, when they discover horrifying truths about life on Cybertron, Pax and D16 find themselves at odds at how to save their home world. The film is directed by Josh Cooley, director of Toy Story 4, and features Chris Hemsworth as Orion Pax and Brian Tyree Henry as D16. Also providing voices are Scarlett Johansson as Elita 1, Keegan-Michael Key as B127, aka Bumblebee, plus there are some vocal appearances from John Hamm as Sentinel Prime, Lawrence Fishburne as Alphatron, and Steve Buscemi as Starscream. So, Transformers 1. Now, I think both of you can vouch for me on this one. I think when I saw the initial trailer, I know we were talking about this on WhatsApp. When I saw the initial trailer for Transformers 1, I don't recall being that impressed with it. I was kind of, I kind of liked the serious mythos of Transformers. And even though the Michael Bay films had kind of bludgeoned it into some metallic bollocks or something like that, I was so used to this, like, being serious, Optimus Prime and Megatron having like serious battles against each other. And then this trailer came along with Rolling Stones music, lots of jokes, lots of jovial, and I'm there going, oh no, I think I've made a terrible mistake. But I think this is quite comfortably the best Transformers film since Bumblebee, to be perfectly honest. Visually exciting and lots of good action sequences. I really like this film. What do you guys think? Let's start off with Harriet.
So I'm only now recently getting into the forum of Transformers. I kind of watched the odd show here and there, but never really in full. So for me, this is kind of like a good way of learning more about like the origins of the Transformers, because obviously the first one I probably watched was animation, but even then I vaguely forget. Then Beast Wars. And then recently for the 40th anniversary, the season 1 or generation 1. And for me, I think I was like you in regards to when I watched the trailer, I was just thinking, I don't know. I'm a bit skeptic about this. And then when I saw the second trailer, I was thinking, okay, now you have my attention. And then I finally got to watch the movie, and then by the end, I was just thinking, okay, so when am I going to watch it again? So I know straight away when I want to see it again, I've really enjoyed it, and it was just good to learn about everything in it. So like the how well I won't say yet, but it was just the storyline was really good. I really enjoyed some of the references because I did understand a few, and I was very proud of one in particular. So in all, I really enjoyed this movie, and honestly, I do want to see it again. I know it's coming out soon digitally, so or on Blu-ray, but that's the first thing I'm going to buy as soon as it comes out.
This might be a bit long-winded, so apologies, but there's a nice little story behind all of this. So I have been a Transformers fan since pretty much when it started, 1984, 4 years old. Ever since I was, as long as I remember, I've always had a fascination with robots cartoons about robots, shows about robots. I've always been a big robots guy. So Transformers and back in the day as well, GoBots was right down my alley. And that continues on with anime such as Big Bang, Bravern, and a bunch of other mecha shows over the years, and definitely things like Gundam. Anyway, all of this, Transformers was one of the shows, that had stayed with me pretty much off and on throughout my entire life. And for the last several years, it was a franchise that I more or less completely walked away from. I had a bit of a disillusionment about. No offense to anyone who's been watching this, but the fandom overall kind of dragged me down on social media, where there was all kinds of sort of petty disputes over the most trivial of things. At the end of the day, it's a dumb show about Transformers that go pew pew at one another and transform into vending machines. It's don't take this stuff at all seriously. But also I didn't see the appeal of buying the toys anymore. And the things like the comic books I weren't really reading anymore. The movies I walked away from for a hell of a long time. So I just got fed up with the Michael Bayness of it all. I still need to watch Bumblebee. And I especially stopped watching cartoons because in my mind, it's not aimed for me. It's not aimed for me anymore. It should be aimed at the current generation. And I'm all for that. I'm all for not being the gatekeeper, as it were. And I don't think anyone should ever be a gatekeeper for a fandom. They should always embrace the new and embrace new fans. So I thought I was pretty much done. And then the two people above me in this video started getting into Transformers. And me being like the old boy that's been a fan of Transformers for like decades, slowly got dragged back into it for one reason or another. And then it came to this point of, hey, Matty, you really got to go see this movie. And we also, if need be, we will give you a ticket to go and see it. I went, if you're feeling that strongly about that, I will go and see it. And I'm really, really glad that I have, because I walked away from this franchise. I stopped watching the media. I stopped reading the books. I stopped buying the toys. And watching this movie brought it all back home to me. I even stopped going to conventions. I stopped going to like the TF Nations and stuff for the longest time. And I walked away from this film wanting to watch it again, which I barely ever do with a film. It got me thinking, I could just buy one more toy. It got me wanting to watch more from this world, like this particular world, even though slightly spoilery, but there's not a thing in this movie that's actually completely original, but it was the way it was presented just made it really, really fun. And I even shed a little tear because it felt like I was coming back home for the first time in years. Like, I'm now really, really excited to be traveling to Reading to go see a TF Nation Reading minicon and seeing some old friends that I have not seen in nearly half a decade. And that's all because of this silliness. So for me, it's very, very personal. And I've got to thank that movie for bringing it back home to me. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Awesome. I mean, just to kind of go on your point about nothing in the film sort of original. It obviously, all these characters you've seen before, it's just been quite cool to see how they've kind of brought them back to like the before times, before they became the icons, the legends, the iconic characters that we know them. And this film lives or dies by that relationship of Orion Pax and D16 before they become Prime and Megatron. And I think the film does a very commendable job of making them friends. Or you're seeing how they are real brothers in arms. They're kind of like, they are kind of polar opposites. The thing I liked about this is that Orion Pax is this sort of rebellious kind of happy-go-lucky guy. He doesn't really sometimes cares about the rules. He's just curious. He's an adventurer. He's just kind of excited to do stuff. Whereas D16 is by the rules. He's kind of like the very cautious. He's kind of, unsure about things. He just wants to stay on the right side of the law. And it's quite fascinating in the 1 hour 40 of this film, and it's a really swift runtime as well, how these sorts of personas kind of crack and shift and change into the characters that they ultimately become. Obviously, Prime is more reserved, he's focused, he wants to make sure people are safe, he wants to do the good thing. And then Megatron is obviously just wants people to suffer, or just basically he wants to do the right thing. But the right thing for him is, I'm going to kill a lot of robots or blow a lot of stuff up to make sure I get what I want. In that sense, if that makes sense, I feel like I've waffled. I feel like I've gone from different kind of sides. So let's start with you, Matty. How do you feel the Pax D16 relationship goes in the film?
This was the first film that absolutely convinced me that these guys were friends once. They've always said things like they were brothers in arms. They always said that that they were like best of friends, but you never really felt that. This actually went out of its way to convince you that no, these two are tightly knit. They're the literal sort of like polar opposites of each other in a way. And as the film progresses, you could see those polar opposites going together and then pushing each other away into the other directions they were each in one way or another. And it was convincing. I think on the side of Megatron, it started to feel a little bit jarring, but in a sort of understandable way. Because I think the words you were trying to look for, Dane, were stoic and inhibited. So he was very much a guy who wasn't at a loss of his inhibitions. This is a guy who very much looked up to people, towed the line because that was his way to try and impress. Whereas Orion Pax's was very much the other way round. He didn't really have any inhibitions. He had plenty of ambitions. And his idea is, no, we got to go forth. We got to just do it. Regardless of whether it gets us in trouble or not, we have got to show that we are more than just the sum of our parts. We have got to prove to... Basically, they both had a senpai complex in one way or another. That's the one thing where these two are very much the same. They both had a senpai complex. They both wanted to impress senpai. And it went in very different ways for the pair of them, which we'll go into in spoiler sections for sure. Yeah, I love these two characters.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the one thing I did love about this is the fact that the Megatron and the Optimus Prime I'm used to is like Megatron being bad, Optimus being good. Orion Pax, he's a rebel, and it's just like, I'm not used to this. So watching him do stuff and then D16 being the goody goody, so to speak, it was just like, this is weird. So for me, that's what I really enjoyed. And then obviously the whole thing of, like Matty said, the polar opposites, and then suddenly what happens next. It's just like, okay. And funnily enough, I did see a clip when I was looking this up earlier of like certain things that come to mind now after watching the movie, like saying the friendship, the brotherly love that they had, and then now you realize why it's the way it is. So for me, I like the way it kind of evenly paced in the movie for me personally. So it's kind of beginning, you realize the rebellious side, and then at the end, what happens. So yeah, that was a nice way of watching it. So the way that I've known about it, and then seeing what happened was a nice surprise for me in particular.
Obviously, we'll go into a bit more of the actual details and a bit of the actual character moments in the spoiler territory portion of the review. I think a credit for this relationship working very well in the film must go to Hemsworth and Tyree Henry for doing some really good voice work. Especially Brian Tyree Henry, because I really liked him as D16 in Megatron.
Yeah.
I really did.
If you're going to go down that road of like voice actors, yeah, I think Scarlett Johansson as well did a really good turn as Alita 1. Like, you're talking about stoic, and you're talking about another person who could be like the polar opposite to Orion Pax. Elita 1 was very much on the same sort of grounds as D16. And she did a really good job of that, pretty much. And just to pluck a few others along here, Steve Buscemi as Starscream as well. That absolutely blew me away, and how much he was channeling Chris Latta. So yeah, just gonna just say the one voice out of all of this that I was the most impressed with, because it was just his normal speaking voice. Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion. He had such a distinctive voice. Just looking at the cast list, there's a guy on this that I actually did amateur voice acting with, John Bailey, who once got me this T-shirt. Lovely, lovely man. We don't speak much anymore, but he's off to bigger and better things. Namely, doing ADR work when Hollywood actors aren't around, like Ryan Reynolds. He does a really good Ryan Reynolds. But yeah, he's there as Soundwave. So, anyway, I'm running off the mouth a bit. So,
Can I cut in and say Keegan-Michael Key as B127 was awesome.
Hang on. Before we carry on, we've all got to try and do a Badassatron separately. I'm going to try first. To say, I mean, I could be called B127, could be B, but also I'm Badassatron. I think that was pretty good. Who wants to go for a Badassatron? Go on, Harriet. Go on, Harriet. Go on, Harriet.
Oh, I'm going to kill my
Hamlet.
voice.
I have faith in you. I have faith in you. Be the one with the badassery.
Okay. Call it B127, but I'm known as Badassatron.
Yeah. Maddie, complete the trifecta.
Badassatron.
Yeah. I mean, because the thing is, like, in the trailers, it kind of made it feel like you would kind of probably be frustrated by Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee, mostly because it's like, obviously we're used to Bumblebee not necessarily speaking. He's obviously using radio to kind of give out his thoughts or his dialogue. So having a character who just doesn't stop talking, and they run with that as a joke, especially when they get captured by Starscream's group of characters. it's like,
can I do the voice?
Go on.
I can do the voice because the guy who says it is Shockwave, and they without going into too much what happens there, they go, he wouldn't. Why is B127 or B gagged? He went, he wouldn't shut up, and he went, what? Even when he was unconscious, especially when he was unconscious. What's a very emotional Shockwave?
Yeah, it's a fun character. I think the humor's not necessarily going to land for everyone, but it's quirky enough that I dig it. I generally like Keegan-Michael Key because I know him from Key and Peele, the comedy stuff that he does with Jordan Peele. I also from Whose Lines It Anyway in the US, he's done a couple of role appearances on that show as well. So it's like I have lots of time for Keegan-Michael Key.
But also, yeah, to go back to what I was thinking about the film and our initial reactions, is that some people were having a hard time with the comedy of that first trailer. I digged it. And I believe the words I said to you was, I find it refreshing because we've had a long span, movies aside, we've had a long span of like Transformers lore being taken way too seriously and stories being way too serious. Like, for instance, the most recent Skybound like Transformers comic. There's no way that's a comedy. So it was refreshing to me to have Transformers presented as light and have a little bit of levity. Of course, we don't entirely get that, and that is the genuine nice surprise in all of this. But we'll talk about that as we go along.
It was good. It was just the right amount, I think, as well as the seriousness of the movie as well. So I haven't actually seen any of the Michael Bay movies or Bumblebee or ones prior, but I have heard from yourself and other friends. It's just like how incredibly serious it is. So, like Matty said, once you saw the humor in this and seeing the trailer, it's just like, okay, I could actually appeal to watch this and feel like I could just sit down and just like not be bored, and I wasn't. I really did enjoy the humor in this.
I kind of really enjoyed One that made me, I think, the only one who laughed out really loud in the audience. It's the first time we see Orion Pax, and he's just hunting around like Cybertronian archives, and these two Transformers just find him and they go, "What are you doing?" And it's like, you shouldn't be here. And he goes, "Okay, guys, we're gonna have a chase. You can chase me. Watch, I can transform." And you think he's about to transform, and he's just run off. It's like, "Yes, I can transform." Zoink. It's like, it's stupid, but I found it funny.
There was some genuine laughs throughout, especially the latter end of that film. There was some genuine like belly laughs coming in, and in the most weirdest of places as well. I mean, I'm definitely gonna be rewatching this film again. I don't watch a lot of films often, like on a rewatch basis, but this one I'm definitely going to. And yeah, the humor was on point. Sometimes, like with a Disney film, they go a little too heavy on the humor when they really don't have to from an entertainment standpoint. But this one, I think, had the right balance and tone for what they were trying to do.
So, before we dive into spoiler territory, let's sort of do our final thoughts of the film. Let's give this a star rating. So, on the show, we all give a rating, and the aggregate score becomes the rating for the film. So, a score out of 5 stars. Let's start with Harriet. Harriet, your final thoughts on the film.
So my final thoughts as someone who has only, like I said, come into the franchise in the year and slowly learning about the various different Transformers, different series and the lore and everything. And if you are not a Transformers fan, or if you kind of want to get into it, I think this is the best way to get into it, because I have read like comments from people saying I've brought my son or I've brought my grandchildren to see this because I used to watch it years ago. So for me, I mean, the cinema I was at, it was just full of kids and they absolutely loved it. So if you're a beginner, definitely watch it. If you're a fan, definitely watch it, because each of us have all unique experiences in regards to watching Transformers, and perfect way to introduce. And for my score, I would give it 4 out of 5.
I completely agree with everything Harriet said. I think this movie is the perfect way for anybody across the board to start out. You can either start out watching it if you liked what you've liked in the past with other entries in the franchise. This should appeal to you as well, because a lot of the lore behind this film does grab from pretty much every iteration of Transformers that has ever really been out there. There should be something for everybody. Is it a perfect film? No. Is it a fun, entertaining film that doesn't outstay its welcome? Absolutely. For that reason, I give it the same score as Harriet, 4 out of 5.
Yeah, Transformers 1, I think, is an excellent addition to the Transformers franchise. It works very well in the animation. The animation is really, really good, very visual, very action-packed as well. Very good vocal performances across the board, including Brian Tyree Henry as D16/Megatron. I think fans will lap up the Easter eggs. So if you're a diehard Transformer fan, give it a watch. Pick up a couple of things. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. And yes, it's a good entry point for new fans as well. I personally would love a follow-up to see the Cybertronian War now begin. And yeah, I came out of the film really buzzing. And yeah, it's gonna be a clean sweep of 4 stars across the board. I give Transformers 1 4 stars out of 5, which means it's 4 out of 5. Right, that's our non-spoiler thoughts on Transformers 1 out of the way. If you've seen the film and you want to join us for a spoiler discussion where we get into the nitty-gritty, here we go. Do 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 do. Right, let's really talk about this film. Let's get into the spoilers. I'm going to kick us off with a little jingle, and it goes like this. Sentinel Prime is a bit of a dick. So yes, the big story, the big plot twist in all of this is basically Sentinel Prime, the last of the Primes, who is looking after Cybertron. He's a bit of a prick because he's helped the Quintessons murder all the other Primes so he could take over. And he's played very well by John Hamm as well. I don't think we talked about him in the non-spoiler route, but John Hamm does really good RC dickhead characters well, and this is no exception. And I just Sentinel Prime just I know from like Transformers Dark of the Moon, I think even Transformers Animated, I think I do always seem to see Sentinel Prime as this dickish, self-centered, like turncoat character. Has he always been this sort of chicken shit or mean
I mean,
bastard?
so from a lore point of view, Sentinel Prime was the original sort of Matrix bearer, the previous Prime to Optimus Prime,
Yeah.
before Prime took on the title. So he got killed, and the Matrix got transferred to Orion Pax or Orion or Optimus, who then became Optimus Prime. Your mileage may vary on that one because that certainly isn't what happened in the old Generation 1 cartoon or comic book or anything like that. But from an amalgamated sort of history lore, historically, that is what's happened. I think an awful lot of that sort of dickishness came from the Transformers animated canon, where basically there's a whole load of primes. Prime isn't so much like the de facto like big boss, as it were. There's the hierarchy. Funny enough, in Transformers animated, Ultra Magnus is like the top dog, and then the primes under him are like the captains, like Star Trek captains. And there's Optimus Prime, there's Sentinel Prime, there's another Prime and another Prime, Shockwave Prime, I think his name is anyway. That's Shockwave in Transformers Animated. He is a Prime technically. But yes, Sentinel Prime is portrayed in that canon as a bit of a knob, and that transfers perfectly over here. Sentinel Prime in Dark of the Moon is supposed to be the big twist, in that most of the deep lore suggests that Sentinel Prime is supposed to be this noble Prime who was like long past the days gone by, and then of course he's a dick, played by Leonard Nimoy, who did a fantastic job, by the way, in an otherwise terrible movie. But yeah, not always. Your mileage may vary. I think the biggest thing that they did, when I say that the film just cherry picks from like here, there, and everywhere, Sentinel Prime was definitely a mix of Transformers animated Sentinel Prime with a character from IDW called Thunderclash. Now, Thunderclash, believe it or not, is basically a repainted Optimus Prime, or rather, Optimus Prime ends up taking Thunderclash's mold for his own. But in IDW, Thunderclash is this incredibly like well-loved, like big-time sort of Autobot who everyone idolizes. Everyone thinks of him as like, they put him on a pedestal. He is like peak Autobot. He is the best of the best. And so a lot of the people idolize Sentinel Prime in this film because he is their figurehead. He is like the thing everyone is top of the hierarchy, everybody idolizes. So I think he's a mix of both of those characters. But to answer your question, yeah, he's a knob.
I mean, especially if you've kind of had a hand in kind of murdering all of the primes and then deciding, oh yeah, any new robots? Yeah, we'll take out the transforming cogs and they can't transform ever. So I will be the pinnacle prime of them all. I mean, he even does actually behead Alpha Trion as well, which I have to admit, the film doesn't really shy away from killing characters off, which I felt was really, really kind of it was responsibly done as well, because I don't think anything's going to be as traumatic as some of the deaths in like Transformers the anime movie back in the 80s. But no, they're very effective here as well. But no, I thought I just that was one of the first things that I came out of the screening and seeing Sentinel Prime just be the douche that he was, and just going, oh yeah, he seems to be this prick in most things that I see him in now. Harriet, any thoughts on Sentinel Prime?
Yeah, he is a dick. I will. I'm just gonna say it as it is. I will say when I first saw him, my kind of red flag meter was kind of rising a bit. I'm like, and obviously because everyone sees him as a god, that was also another moment. Especially in regards to Orion and D16, especially D16. That was literally his, as Mate said before, his senpai, his god, his idol that he followed. And then obviously when he discovered the truth, that's when all hell broke loose. But yeah, Sentinel is I think John Hamm played him incredibly well, to the point where he was just like, you thought he was really nice. No, he's not. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I mean, something's definitely up when basically after, because the opening third has Pax and D16 take part in the Iacon like grand big race where all the Transformers just race from one point to the other on this ever changing track, which is a really cool sequence. And they take part to go, oh, we're going to prove that even though we can't transform, we can compete with them. And then it doesn't end up well. They don't win the race. But Sentinel Prime's just going, hey guys, you've done really cool. I'm going to let you kind of go to my private sort of maintenance shack. You can kind of get all tuned up. You can go back and you can be winners for your mining friends. And you can get them to really get all the energon out of the planet for me. And then all of a sudden they just get thrown into a big pit with Bumblebee.
I think one of the biggest giveaways, though, is the fact that his bodyguard is a giant spider woman.
And it's very terrifying.
And a huge red flag across the board. I've got one or two other little bits and pieces on my spoiler list to discuss. Anyone want to throw out a thought or any sort of observations on the film they'd like to share?
Mostly for me, basically I was doing like throughout the film, I was doing my own private game of Where's Wally. So I was like purposely looking out for any Easter egg where there was a character that I knew from Transformers lore. And I'm looking at the list now and I'm really proud of myself, pat myself on the back that I saw people like Mirage and Prowl. Obviously Jazz is there front and center at the beginning and end of the film. And then there's other characters that are like big badasses that treat Megatron really badly at the start of the film, and you just know that Megatron, now he is what he is probably going to seek petty like power moves over after the fact. Like I'm trying to find him now. Dreadwind? Or was it Darkwing? Darkwing. Who punched Megatron in the face right at the start of the film. And that's one of Megatron's underlings now. That's going to be an awkward conversation. and so forth. Like the 13 primes as well, going through the list of them all, where in the amalgamated history, there is now this history of 13 primes, and this movie embraces that. I mean, literally for me, it was just like mentally picking this film apart, looking for any character I could lynch to go, it's that guy. Also in the race, Blur was there as well, so the fastest robot alive, who was played by the Micro Machines guy whose stick was talking very fast.
So for me, my biggest go away with all this was the kind of evolution of D16 Megatron. After finding out he was betrayed, and I didn't notice this straight away, but once he got his first cog, and then suddenly he realized what was happening, and Pax was trying to talk to him, and suddenly he turns to the screen and his eyes are no longer yellow, they're orange. And I was just like, oh, this is not good. So this is like the first steps of him becoming who he was to be. And then towards the very end, when he got the second cog, and then when he tried to save, his thing was always helping Orion. But then at the very end, when he shot him when he got in the way of trying to kill Sentinel, and then suddenly when he looks away and then he looks back and his eyes are red, and I just literally got chills down my spine, and he was just like, no, I'm not doing this anymore, and he lets go. And that was just like incredible. I was just like, that's it, that's Megatron, that's it, he's no longer D16. At that same time, when Pax was falling, a child shouted out in the audience, oh, he's dead. And at that point I burst out laughing. I'm at the back, they're at the front, and I was just like, this is a very serious moment here.
You don't want to turn around to that child and say, he got it easy in that one. You go watch 1984's Transformers the movie and you watch him slowly die and turn to black and dust. No, just to kind of add on to that, I love the little things. I love the little things of foreboding with D16 into Megatron. It's the little things, the Megatronus Prime decal, which is the Decepticon logo, and
Yeah.
it's those little things, and the fact that his heroes, because Megatronus Prime is D16's kind of favorite ever Prime from history books, and the fact that his transforming cog, has ended up in Central Prime. He's going to get it eventually, and it's like, is he just going to take it from a dead body? No, he's just going to rip Sentinel Prime in half and just take it for himself. It's those little bits, and I think again, I liked Tyree Henry's performance as D16. It's just like, because I am a Megatron fan at heart, so just seeing those little bits of Megatron start coming to fruition is like, oh no, the hand cannon's coming in. It's like, this is amazing. It's like this is the Megatron I remember. This is cool. This is awesome, and that sort of stuff.
I absolutely hate the one thing about this film I absolutely hate is the fact that it told the story of Anakin Skywalker way more competently than either George Lucas or Disney ever did. Because when you think about it, right, he starts off being a doe-eyed little youth, right, who has massive senpai issues, like we explained earlier. And then he had disappointment when he found out all the stuff that happened to him. With the disappointment came a sense of betrayal. With the sense of betrayal came a deep anger. With the deep anger came the ability to lash out. With the ability to lash out came his new sense of worth, and he was just going to take everything. You can thank Sentinel Prime for being the Palpatine to D16's Anakin, because Sentinel Prime very much is the core reason why we got a Megatron. This is a guy that he idolized, but a little bit lower than Megatronus Prime. He's still very much a senpai to Megatronus Prime. He takes his name after all. But Sentinel Prime is the very reason that we have Decepticons. Sentinel Prime is the reason why we got a Megatron. Sentinel Prime literally gave Megatron a tattoo on his chest, which caused the start of the Decepticons. Because what does Megatron then do? He brands everyone who follows him with it. He brands them. It's not just a sticker. It's not just a label. He brands all the Decepticons with that logo. So it's like, oh my God. So I'm going to say it. Basically, Megatron's whole purpose was one massive temper tantrum, and he's never going to step down. He's never going to be put on the naughty step. That's him now. That is legitimately him.
I think also, because obviously we've talked quite a bit about Megatron or D16 turning into Megatron. I think Pax turning into Prime is a good journey as well. I found it quite amusing in the interviews that Hemsworth was doing for the film, and basically going, "Oh yeah, I'm not trying to do a Peter Cullen voice." And for most of the film, he doesn't do a Peter Cullen voice, which is really good. It kind of, you have that youthful energy you expect from a young Optimus Prime per se. But the moment he kind of falls into the center of Cybertron, the spirits of the Primes and Primus kind of go, "Hey, you're a really cool dude. You know that? Here, have the matrix of leadership," and kind of come back from the dead. His voice starts to go like deeper into Peter Cullen territory, and it's kind of like, oh yes, I can just about hear little traces of Cullen in there now.
Right at the end, I was starting to be convinced that last bunch of words was Peter Cullen, because it got deeper and deeper and deeper. And as you said, it wasn't necessarily a Peter Cullen impression when he first becomes Optimus Prime either. It's very much a much more restrained, not stoic, but very much a, right, I am now very much the figurehead here. This is me now kind of performance. And it's only when he does his little speech at the end where you go, oh no, that's a Peter Cullen impression at the end. And it's like, that is it. With those final words, he is Optimus Prime. I kind of don't like the fact that everyone has to be Peter Cullen. I think there's been some other performances out there that have done a blinding job of just making that their own role. For instance, David Kaye in Transformers Animated. Gary Chalk has his own distinctive way when he's Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal as well. I don't feel that necessarily you have to be Peter Cullen, but it helps.
To add on to the list, I think Alan Tudyk does a good Prime in Earthspark as well. It's definitely not Peter Cullen, but it's Alan Tudyk, but he has a regalness to him per se. My last little bit in the spoiler territory section, and I think Harriet might agree with me on this. Not enough Starscream. But I do like. No, but I do like the fact. So basically, Starscream and some of the classic Decepticons, they used to work with the Primes. They were the Cybertronian High Guard, and when the shit hits the fans, they get turned on by Sentinel Prime. They kind of go into hiding, and Pax and D16, Alita, and Bumblebee, they all bump into them, and Starscream is the leader. I do like the fact that they show Megatron wiping the floor with him, but also crushing his vocal box a bit to make him sound more like classic Starscream. It's against those little details. It's those little details. Unfortunately, you don't really hear Steve Buscemi much after that segment of the whole film.
No.
He has a few lines here or there. He gets involved in some of the action, but he doesn't really have any more speeches after that. He just goes, "Oh yeah, I'll follow Megatron now. Bye." But I think Steve Buscemi was fun. It was a fun, fascinating performance of just saying, Steve Buscemi, Starscream, yes, signed me up. And I just find it strange because he's fifth billed in this film. In the credits, I think he's fifth billed after like Hemsworth, Tyree Henry, Johansson, and Michael Key. So yeah, it's like, there's not enough Starscream. But on the other side, I kind of understand it because you don't want to overstuff characters into the film. I think under the wrong direction and with the wrong script, you could have put all the big important Transformers in. You could have done like a 10-minute thing on Soundwave, a 10-minute thing on Shockwave, and you just make the film very bloated. So I think I understand the restraint in not showing more of the Decepticons or the eventual Decepticons in the film.
In a way, it kind of changed the whole dynamic about Starscream because in the past, we have been taught to believe that he's an underling. That I said it when you two started getting into Transformers. I said in the early days, Starscream is very much the young punk who thinks that he's like Billy Big Bollocks, basically. And that's been consistent throughout much of his life, throughout all the continuities. That is something that has always been a Starscream trait. With this film, this is a guy who has tasted leadership already. This is a guy who's assumed a position of power, then first T16, and then in his enhanced form as Megatron, literally wiped the floor of him, as you say, and asserted dominance. He turned Starscream into his sub before everyone's very eyes. And I think with this new hierarchy, because he's going to do this because he's freaking Starscream, his whole thing now is, right, I'm going to sit tight. I'm going to be a member of the Decepticons. I am going to have Megatron lead this. But you know what? I'm going to try and claw back that position of power any way I can. I am going to sit on that throne again. It's going to happen. My day will come, and everyone will rule the day when I become the leader of the Decepticons.
I am going to go in there and say, yes, not enough Starscream. But I did love the whole thing of like when you heard his voice, just like, okay, not the Starscream I'm kind of used to, but did well with the Crestletter voice. But then when Megatron choked him, I was just like, that's the Starscream I heard, because you could just about hear little bits, and I was just like, that's the whiny voice I'm used to. Because I Starscream is one of my favorite characters, so I wish we saw more of him. And for me, it was a bit of a shock to see him as leader before seeing Megatron as leader, because I've always had the running joke of like Megatron just does something wrong and then suddenly starts with, now I'm leader of the Decepticons sort of thing. I'm so used to that. So seeing it from this side was just like, oh, this is cool. But then I was thinking in my head, oh, Megatron's really gonna get you. You're not gonna be leader for very long. And I was right. I mean, as soon as I saw him, come on, we have an in joke with every time I see him, I just go, my boy, and then when I saw him, I was just like, my boy, in the back of the audience because I had people sitting next to me. So yeah, I wish there was more of it, but like you said, Ian, it's like if you dedicated so much time to each of the Decepticons of now, yeah, it would have taken too much time. So you kind of got introduced. So if they do a sequel, I would like it if they kind of focus more on like Shockwave, Soundwave, and Starscream as well.
When that scene came out in the film, I got really, really giddy, and I'm going to say it. I think the Decepticons are way more interesting characters in this film overall. And to be fair, I've been finding the Decepticons way more interesting characters in general. I was brought up a dirty, dirty red. I was brought up an Autobot guy. I love Jazz. I love Ultra Magnus over Optimus Prime. I'm an Ultra Magnus guy. And yet, me growing up, me basically being an old boy, I've been finding the bad guys way more interesting. And when this scene came out and I saw, oh, it's you and you and you and definitely you, I'm like, first off, oh God, I'm so excited. And then I've gone, oh my God, what is Harriet feeling right now? It's like my immediate thought straight after is, oh my God, this is the moment where Harriet screamed, wasn't it?
Internal screaming in the cinema, but yeah, I was just like,
I mean, yeah, that's when I got the most giddy when that happened. Is like all the guys were there. It's like, oh, the boys are here.
Ironically, I thought the same thing with you when I saw Soundwave. I was like, "There's Matty's."
Well, they're both my boys, Soundwave and Shockwave.
And Shockwave, yeah, exactly.
I'm all about the waves.
There's so many waves.
I do love the bit where they have the brief alliance and Soundwave's not Soundwave, Shockwave's going, why should we trust you? And then Elise is just going, okay, we trust you. We'll work with you now.
I quite like Shockwave in this. I mean, some people go, "Oh, it's not quite the Shockwave we know and love, and he should be like this." I went, "Well, no, because it's not your continuity. This is this film's Shockwave, and I'm fine with it. I'm absolutely fine with it. I thought he was great."
I have one thing I was very proud of when I heard at the very beginning. I think it was right before they went into the mines, and then something was said about like, you got the touch, you got the power, and I was like, I know that. And I think I heard like to the left, to the right of me, a little chuckle from the two guys that were sat near me, and I'm like, I'm not the only one. I'm a Transformers fan. I understood that.
What was it? Just quickly as well. At least the first third, every time Pax was talking about being something in Cybertron, he always just kept ending. He's like, maybe we can be something more. Maybe we can be more than meets the eye. Great. It's like the first time you hear it, you go, oh yeah, that's what we're talking about, Optimus Prime. And then when he says it like 5 or 6 minutes later, going, and yes, D16, let's show everyone that we can be more than meets the eye. And I'm just sat there going, you just said it. You just said it, Pax. You don't need to say it again. Come on, Alita. Come on, me. Let's show all of Cybertron that we can be more than meets the eye. It's like, you just said it. You don't need to say it again.
But Dane, they got to say it because that's trademarked. You got to protect the trademark at all costs.
It's just Hasbro just sat in their big like robot den,
yes,
next to the GI Joe section, and basically they just keep calling up the anime and say, "Yeah, guys, you know the scene where Pax is talking about his aspirations of being a great member of society. Make sure he says they can be more than meets the eye." Okay, thank you.
Another saying, it came nearly towards the crescendo of the movie when he did the transform and roll out, but in a way he said it, he couldn't fully say it, and then someone just shouted out, "What?" And then Alita was just like, say it again. And then he was literally like, transform and roll out. And I was just like, there you are. That's kind of the Optimus Prime I know. But that was quite funny as well. Where it was just like he was quite shy to be a leader, so to speak. And Alita was the one who had like, come on, you can do this.
Oh, I do love the thing is, right, Pax, listen to me. I am better than you in every single way. All right. But you can lead them. It's just the gut punch of I'm better than you and you know it. Yes. And Prime like, yep, I agree. I agree. Obviously, respectfully agrees on that one. And then basically, bring hello.
Hello, this is Hasbro. You know the bit where he says transform and kind of roll out? Could you add in at the end that they can be more than meets the eye? Yep. Great, thank you.
Transformers stuff is fun.
There is also robots in disguise. Don't forget we gotta have that as well at some point.
Oh, the GoBots dig.
Yes!
Yes!
I saw that. I heard that. I was just like, oh, dear.
I just went. They did not just say GoBots in this film.
What a time to put all my GoBots behind me.
And Matty felt that.
The GoBots.
I love GoBots.
Does anyone have any additional spoiler points they want to dive into?
Only that, like, we alluded that the story itself is like unoriginal, and that's not to dig at it. Like for me, who's like been deep into Transformers lore for like decades, I love how they've just grabbed at things across the board and just made it this huge amalgamated universe. They've done a better job of like absorbing it all into one continuity, as in with this one movie, than they at last attempted to when they said, oh, the Xbox 360 games and Transformers Prime and a bunch of other stuff is now one continuity, is one big amalgamation, and it's one continuity, and it really didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like it gelled together at all. This film just feels natural. You got characters that have come from like I'm going to go through the thing now, just looking at the things here. Like Arachnid came from Transformers Prime. There they are in this very much new universe. You've got people like Sentinel Prime, who feels like Transformers animated Sentinel Prime. He's in this universe. You've got different iterations of what Energon is, what Energon brings to the table. Like Energon has been both an ore, a mineral, a thing you fill plastic cubes with. It's been all these different things, and now it's like the literal lifeblood of Cybertron, and it's all there. It's all absolute there. You want young, punky Orion Pax? He is here. If you want nice, stoic Optimus Prime, he's there. If you want like the non-affiliated life forms that IDW brought into the continuity, they're here in the minor class. It feels like a proper bare tapestry of Transformers history. And you can go, well, that's not like Generation 1. You know, we need to make it more like Generation 1. To which I say, there's something here for you guys as well. There's something here for the people that were brought up on Transformers Robots in Disguise in the 2000s. There's something here. There's even stuff here for the Beast Wars guys, the Beast Machines guys, where you got actual organic parts to Cybertron. Okay, it's a different sort of idea of what organic actually means, but it exists on Cybertron in this universe. You've got the Alpha Quintessons from the 1986 movie in season 3, but also you got the iterations of like the Alpha Quintessons from the Unicron trilogy. It's all here. You got an actual idea of like the 13 Primes. You got an idea of what Primus is. There's a literal thing they can dip into and just make their own. And much like you guys, whether it be another movie or a TV series based after this film, I really, 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 really want to see more adventures in this universe. and it will sadden me if we don't, or we just get another version of Transformers. Because this is what we get. We'll just get a refresh every couple of years now. And it's like, can we just stay consistent for a little while, please? Can we just live in this world for a bit more? Because I love this world that they've started off with, and I'd love to see what they do with it moving forward.
Just a quick touch on like the box office so far. So I have time of recording. According to Box Office Mojo, it has a worldwide gross of $119 million. 56 of that coming from the US box office, 62 coming from international markets. I believe it was the UK #1 film for a brief week as well, before some of the horror films like Terrifier and Smile came out. So no, it's good to see that people have been interested in seeing Transformers 1 in the UK. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Steve's an awesome character. He's not shown enough.
I mean, he doesn't have a head anymore.
No, he doesn't.
How did he come up with the unique name known as Steve?
Where B works, he's probably seen stuff, and it probably just something he just saw, and he was like, you know what, Steve, that sounds like a good name for you.
All that programming involved. For the better, who knows?
It was nice to see Headmasters make a debut. Slowly. This is one for the Transformers fans who are clearly not these two. It's because Steve lost his head and then he reattached it. That's what makes him a headmaster. Okay, I'll shut up now.
I mean, to be fair, I know how Pax and D16 had their senpai. Matty is literally our Transformers senpai at this point, teaching us bits and pieces.
Don't say that. I'm actually
you're a
at
teacher.
This point.
But Harriet, this means if something goes wrong, one of us might end up ripping out the cog from Matty and just putting it inside us. And I don't think, from a biological standpoint, it's going to work. It might. It's going to be very messy.
Don't follow me. I'm just an idiot with opinions. I will draw your attentions, everybody, to a YouTube guy called Chris McFeely, because he does a YouTube series called Transformers The Basics, and he knows way too much. He's actually written a book about it. He knows way too much. Go follow him. He is incredible. And please, in the comments, talk to him about Digimon. He loves that. He really loves Digimon. He created a wiki once. Did you know that? He created a wiki about Digimon. Do remind him of this in the comments on YouTube. I'm sure he's going to love that. Hi, Chris. You're welcome.
And Matty was never seen again on BunkaMania.
that guy's known me nearly 20 years. He's used to it.
And with that, I think it's time to wrap up things here on BunkaMania Goes to the Movies. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you'd like to see more episodes of the show, hit the subscribe button. It's completely free to do so. If you're watching on YouTube, also give the video a like. So, yes, we'll be back soon to talk more things movies. We do a special monthly movie review of a film of a wrestler. And coming up very soon is See No Evil. And spoiler alert, it's not a good film. Not in the slightest, not even for Halloween. But we'll explain that in another time. But yes, we'll have some other movie reviews coming up very soon. Venom: The Last Dance is almost out. Macross Plus is going to be one that we're looking to revisit. It's just coming out on Blu-ray. It's also available on Disney Plus. So as we've all been kind of big fans of Macross in the past, especially on the old Sci-Fi Channel days, we thought it would be a good time to revisit the film as well. And yes, we'll also have plenty more movie reviews in the future. If you like your wrestling, we also do a wrestling podcast. BunkaMania Wrestling looks at the lively world of AEW and WWE. So if you like that stuff as well, and you watch on YouTube, give us a subscribe. You will get episodes immediately to your feed. But we don't just do lots of stuff here on BunkaMania. We all have our own little bits and pieces going on. And let's start off with Transformer Senpai himself, Matty. Matty, where can people find you?
Soundwave Superior. Megatron in fit. Wait, what? Why are you so small, Megatron? And anyway, Hey everybody, I'm Matty. You can find me not on X anymore because I won't post into that bloody hellhound of a place. But you can find me on Blue Sky. I can't actually remember what it is. I think it's mattyboo.bluesky.com. I'm sure we'll find something. I will remember this for next time. But you can also find me on Instagram and Threads under Matty Boo Super. You can also find me on Twitch. I do my own streams, currently finishing off The Wolf Among Us, and then we'll be moving over to Life is Strange, and that is over at Matty Boo Twitches.
Thank you very much, Harriet.
Here you go. I'd stand. My brain's gone. So I am also on X. I post my schedule on X each week, and that's under Manga Girl 232. I'm also on Threads. I'm also on Blue Sky under Manga Girl 232, but I need to post more on both. I am also on Twitch. The name is Harriet_Manga Girl. I've just finished playing Castlevania, which I have thoroughly enjoyed. And next week, because it's Halloween, I'm playing the horror game, and I'm not looking forward to it. But if you want to see me look scared and make me jump scare with sound alerts, do that because you're going to have a great laugh. And also YouTube, Manga Girl 232. I do reactions on there. There is a new one coming up on Friday with the new Starbomb album. I will be reacting to that, and then after that, whatever comes out as and when, you'll find me on there. I do the odd wrestling reaction when I can, and when WWE decides not to put the ban hammer on me. But yes, if you find me on X/Twitter, you'll see when I post my videos and my schedule each week.
Thank you very much. And you can find me on Twitch over at the Dekker Dane, all one word. I stream every Monday, 8 p.m. UK time, and we tend to go into the weird and wonderful world of vintage television on YouTube. This past month, we've been looking at spooky stuff with Ghost Dimension, and I think we might be diving right back into the world of Celebrity Mole very, very soon. But you can catch me Mondays over at Twitch at the Dekker Dane. So, I think that just about wraps things up. Don't forget, if you have seen Transformers 1 and you'd like to share your thoughts, please leave a comment below, or you can email us at contact@BunkaMania.com. And sorry, one moment, phone's ringing. Yep. Yep. Okay. All right, fine. Right. I have just received a very important phone call from Hasbro, and that is all that we have time for today. Thank you so much for watching BunkaMania Goes to the Movies. I've been the Dekker Dane, joined by Harriet and MattyBoo, and we're definitely more than meets the eye. Goodbye.